Hey everybody, welcome to episode 134. My God, I get so excited when the episodes go up higher and higher. We're here at Carmela's Wrestling Radio Relived with my buddy Rich. How you doing, honey?
Hi, Carmela. Doing good. How you doing? Great to see you.
Um, I'm okay. No point in talking about the stuff that's bothering me, right? So we just may as well let it go. I am going to tell you this though. I went to the doctor and my blood pressure on my right arm was 130 over 90, which is technically a little high. My blood pressure on my left arm was 110 over 60. And I said to the doctor, I was like, really? And he's like, well, you're under a lot of stress. He said, you got to cut the stress. And I said, oh, yeah, cutting the stress is like telling somebody, you can jump off this cliff, but don't hit the bottom. Okay, so there's no cutting off stress. So anyway, before I left, he did it again, and damn it, the readings were the same. So I guess it means one side of me is more stressed than the other side of me. Um, anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about our poor Jeannie. Jeannie fell down the steps and broke her humerus. Okay, um, not quite the same way I broke mine, but hers is broken, and she is out of work for 6 weeks, so she won't be on the podcast for a while. So Jeannie, we love you. We want you to get better. Please make sure you get better and you come back on because we miss you. If you need
Please
anything,
get
let me
better,
know.
Jeannie.
Yes, everybody
Same.
sends their love. I hate this. I hate that. All right. Also, a couple announcements I want to make real quick. Today at my job, okay, this man comes to the window, and I'm not going to tell you why he was there. It was work related, okay? But he saw my Obafemi shirt. All right. I have Obafemi on today, and he said to me, he said, do you know what that name means? I said, what, Obafemi? He goes, yeah. I said, yeah, I do. And he said, what does it mean? I said, it means God loves me or the ruler or something like that. Yeah, that's exactly what it means. And he also was from Nigeria. And his name is Cyril. And I told him, I gave him the link to the podcast. I told him I was going to say hi to him tonight because I thought that was so cute that he was like, "Oh my God, I really like. I'm going to watch your podcast." And that we were talking about Obafemi and wrestling, and you never know where you're going to meet people that you can talk to about things. But anyway, he told me to say this. He said, "Omo Bawani, Omo Bawani." That means friends. How are things? So I thought that was so damn cute. So Cyril and Joy, Joy is his wife or girlfriend, I'm not sure. She was there too. Very nice, wonderful people. Thank you so much, and I hope you listen to the podcast. I also want to say hello to a new potential listener. His name is James. He lives in North Jersey. He is 6'4" and he's built real muscular. And I told him he should have been a wrestler, but I haven't met the man yet. But anyway, I told him that I was going to mention him tonight, and hopefully he'll listen and he will see that. And so here you go. Mwah. There, I said I would do it. Okay, so we have a good show tonight coming. We have Nikita Breznikov, and we have his partner, Benny the Playa Scala. Okay, I'm looking forward to this podcast because it is an old school podcast. It's kind of like what we do. I don't know that they do anything. Rich, they don't do anything on current stuff, do they?
No, no, they do 70s and early 80s and late
Okay.
60s in some cases. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to that. As a matter of fact, I see that Benny is in our studio.
Mhm.
I'm going to bring him on and then we're going to start talking to him before Nikita gets here. Also, I just want to let everybody know that this Sunday is All In. It starts at 1 o'clock at Wembley Stadium, AEW. And this weekend also is a NXT pay per view, and it's also AAA, I believe, a pay per view this weekend. Next weekend is going to be Sunday night main event. Okay, that's going to be pretty cool. So, anyway, before any further ado, we're going to get started. We're going to bring on Mr. Benny. Hey,
Greetings. Thank you
how
for
are
having
you?
me.
You're
Hey,
welcome. Thank you for
Benny.
coming. This is Rich.
Hey, Rich. Nice to meet you. We chatted online.
Yeah,
You
good,
look you
good
look
meeting you
like
too, Ben.
you look like somebody. I can't think of who right now. I saw your picture.
Probably on a poster at the post office.
I don't know about that.
Well, in my younger days, I was always mistaken for Tony Orlando. I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Yeah, okay. I can see that without the long hair. I can see that now. Yeah, that I can see now. Okay. That's crazy. So where's Nikita?
I don't know.
Uh-oh. Is he going to show up?
I'm of the ilk that early is on time is late. So I'm very punctual.
I am too. I'm always early. We've been actually here talking for about 10 minutes before we started the show. So
well,
we're
I
early.
signed on and I thought like, geez, am I late? But you had said 5:00. I figured maybe you do some kind of intro between the two of you before you bring your guests on.
Well, no. What happens is once in a while, because Rich and I, we like things that come up during the course of the week. Oh, here's Nikita. Okay, things that come up during the course of the week, we talk about a little bit in the beginning of the show. Why we did that today was we didn't want to take any time away from you guys.
Gotcha.
So that's why we made a few announcements. Okay, let's talk to Mr. Nikita.
Hi,
how are you?
Sup?
Nikita, I'm Carmela. This is my friend Rich.
All right, friend.
How are you?
Who's that other guy? He looks like a dope head.
I said, it's funny when he first came on, I said, you look like somebody.
I'm the guy in front of the grocery store that asked you for spare change. Yeah.
Move along.
So let's talk a little bit about your podcast. Rich tells me, and I haven't. I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't listened to it yet. But
oh no, shame on you.
I know, it's so sad. But he told me that you have an old school podcast, correct?
That's it.
Okay. And you don't do anything on any updates, nothing new, just all old stuff, right?
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long have you been involved in wrestling?
Since 1970. Watching.
Okay.
That's when I became a fan. And then as far as, hold on, let me make sure I get the microphone on. As far as participating since November the 18th of 1995. 30 years.
Okay, I was introduced to the wrestling scene. My parents were involved in wrestling, obviously, before me. I was 6 years old in my first wrestling show, and I am now 69. So I have been involved in wrestling for 63 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a promoter. I was a booker. I was the first woman in the world to have a talk show on the radio in the 80s about professional wrestling. And I tell this story all the time about how my mom and dad, used to take the wrestlers over to our house because they had nowhere to go back in the day. They used to stay in their cars, or some of them had friends in different towns, and they wound up all coming to my house. And after my mom passed away, I picked up the tradition, and that's how I got to be friendly with a lot of them.
Very nice.
So then I decided to do a podcast. So I've been doing this for quite a while, but it's been a long time, and trying to explain to somebody how, you've been involved in wrestling this long, it's like difficult because so many things have changed over the years. How do you feel about wrestling from back then and today?
You definitely have the East Coast vernacular. I could hear that. As I have when I go to the West Coast and other things, when I'm not in an accent and people are like, where are you from? My mother. So anyway, wrestling today,
the 60s.
No disrespect, it's beautiful, it's hard, it's good, hard work. What the hell can they do today? They can't get any heat. They can't say anything. They'll burn the stations down. They'll burn buildings down. So it's like, it has no meaning. It's men in their underwear fighting, or women looking like they belong in a strip club, pulling hair and fighting.
Exactly.
It's the shit today. That's period. I've heard from legends who don't want to get vocal because they have other things that they still try to make money with. But their opinion behind the scene, shit.
It's Cirque du Soleil in a wrestling ring, in my opinion.
And it's funny you say that, because Rich and I are of the opinion that back in the day, because everything was so hardcore and it was all from scratch, like a lot of times we've had a lot of old wrestlers on the podcast, and we've been told over and over again about how they actually learned how to wrestle in their matches, not in a school, not in a promotion center, not in a specially organized group. It was everything was learned in the match itself. So it was like you went there and it was like, okay, what are we going to do? And you're like, oh, you'll see. And you go in the ring, you get the hell beat out of you, and you're like, oh, okay, that's what we were going to do.
Yeah, on the job training.
Yeah, today everything is rehearsed.
Oh.
If you notice, everything is like they'll even admit it. Well, so and so was supposed to kick out at the count of 2, but they didn't. They made a mistake. I mean, they'll come right out and tell you this on their interviews and stuff like that. Which I don't think. I still believe in a lot of kayfabe. I really do. But unfortunately, that kayfabe went by the wayside a long, long time ago.
Well, you can't help the internet.
No,
I think you're going to find a lot of synergies between Nikita and Carmella. And I would not be surprised if both of you, even though you haven't met before, know the same people. I mean, I've been listening to Benny and Nikita since day one. You did a 2-part Bruno tribute. We did a Bruno tribute, and we had Carmella had Davey O'Hannon on the show as part of that Bruno tribute.
Yeah, we have too.
You've had Davey O'Hannon. You had Larry Zbyszko last week.
Mm-hmm.
Carmella had Larry Zbyszko on a couple months ago.
Yeah.
But Carmella and I are originally from Philadelphia, and went to the old arena, went to the Spectrum. Nikita, I know you live in Baltimore. I live near DC now, so we're not that far from each other. But I think that both of you you're going to find out that you know a lot of the same people, and it's going to be really, really funny that you know these people in different ways.
That's true. I was going to mention Nikolai Volkov because I know that was a very good friend of yours, and you did a lot of things with him, and he was actually a very good friend of mine as well. I'm going to ask you, did you ever hear him sing?
Well, of course.
Oh my God. He used to
8
sing,
hours in a car together. How could you shut him up?
he used to sing Cara Mia. You ever
Oh my
remember that
God.
song?
I listen to that
Cara Mia?
once a month on YouTube. And I'm a big fan of Jay and the Americans. I mean, what a beautiful voice he had.
Yeah. And I used to make him, because I met him through Dominic DiNucci, and my family
Oh,
were very
love Dominic.
close. Dominic was like a dad to me. I was just saying it last week. My mom passed away when I was only 20. I lost my whole family by the time I was 21. And
Wow.
Dominic stepped right in, right in. He was like a dad to me for years and years, and such a good man. And he brought a lot of wrestlers over my house and stuff like that. And when we met, I was surprised to hear back then anyway, that Nikolai was actually part Italian, and if not all Italian. But he would come in and he'd talk to me in Italian, and then I heard him sing, and I heard him sing Cara Mia, and I was like, oh dear God. I you know what, I wish I recorded it. That's the only thing I regret. There's so many things that I should have recorded and I did not.
Beppo in Italian means grandfather. That's why he took that name for the Mongols.
Yep.
To play on everybody. But he said that fucking song, I had to do it 50 times. Same shit every fucking time. I had to keep do again. It's like, my God.
He
did
was
a great
so
job,
good, though. Oh my God. Did you ever hear him sing that?
No.
Oh dear God, you are missing out.
Okay? It's on YouTube. I would highly recommend it. It's very addictive. YouTube? Yeah, I've heard it.
Okay.
A 62-inch chest is going to belt that out. You know that.
Oh, yeah. He was so nice. He was so nice. He came to my house and he just sat there and he ate. Of course, everybody who came to my house ate. I cooked, my mother cooked, and we had a ball. We had so many fun times with the wrestlers. And I think that's more what I can relate to, other than like now, like today, you can't even under pain of death meet a wrestler unless you pay up to $400 or $500 for it, or more than that.
Oh, fuckers from baseball, football, the bullshit. Yes.
Yep.
Not just
years
them.
ago, and I was telling the fans on one of our podcasts, I had a picture. My mom used to be one of the Ringside Rosies. Not, there's a couple of them, but my mom used to be one of them from the Philadelphia area. And I had a picture that I put up of her around the ring. Back then, we could all run up to the ring. Like all the wrestlers would come out, and like Haystack Calhoun used to sit down on the apron in the ring, and everybody would run up to him before the match. He'd sign autographs and all that stuff, and then he'd wrestle, and vice versa. It would happen again at the end. And I mean, it was amazing to be able to do that. There were no bars up, there were no railings, nothing like that. It was so cool. And now, like, it's almost like the wrestlers are on display, and the fans are the animals that are being kept out. Does that make sense? You know?
Oh,
what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah, it's like ridiculous. It's like we're the ones that are pretty much the odd ones, the ones that nobody wants
I
to
believe it was very intimate. There was a bond back in the day between the wrestlers and the fans, and a lot of it was, like I always use Memphis for an example. Mid-South Wrestling, the Mid-South Coliseum, rather. Every Monday night, and you got to think, if you're a wrestler walking down, if you're Jerry Lawler or Bill Dundee, you walk down that aisle, you see the same people every single week, and after a while, you probably get to know them, And
oh, yeah.
I mean, now I live, I grew up on Long Island, but I'm about 20 miles outside of Tampa. They might come here once a year. There's nothing personal anymore.
No. And it's funny because where I work near, and the arena it changed, it's Cure Arena now. But anyway, they had a lot of wrestling over there. And now it's at the point where they do like they do with celebrities. So there's wrestlers in the back. A lot of the people I work with the police, and they're guards and stuff, and they're like, we're not allowed to talk to the wrestlers, we're not allowed to ask for autographs, we're not allowed to have any communication with them at all. I said, oh hell no. I said, bring me in there. I said, I'll show you who's going to have communication. I'd probably get pulled out by my hair and thrown out of the building. But that's crap. That is crap.
Do you have to bring your own oxygens because you can't breathe the same air as those bastards?
Oh yeah, you have to. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
That's why today is so sad. Everything today is so sad. Rich, how do you feel about all this? I know you have some questions you wanted to ask.
Well, I agree with everything that you're saying. I think that the old school crowd is, obviously as time goes on, the old school crowd is dwindling. Today's wrestling fan knows little or nothing about the 60s, the 70s, the regional territories. All they see is an international wrestling juggernaut now. And right. The emotion of getting invested in a wrestler, and even at the matches themselves, and I'll give you a perfect example for me. I mean, I've been a wrestling fan since I was 8 years old, and was just flipping channels on UHF, watching television with my brother, and I saw this wrestling thing, and there's this guy, Bruno Sammartino, who's getting chewed out and picked on by this guy, Cowboy Bill Watts. And he attacked him afterwards. And it's like, I didn't know anything any different. And I looked at my brother and I said, how can that happen? And he says, oh, it's not real. And I said, from that moment on, I was hooked.
Yeah.
And even then, when I used to go to the Philadelphia arena, the first time I ever went, I was like 10 years old. My brother took me. And there was one time that I went, and Georgie Animal Steel, I think the main event was Georgie Animal Steel against Bruno. And I had a ringside seat, and Georgie Animal Steel is on the ring apron, and he's, jeering to the crowd. I've got my autograph book with me because, they didn't have any barricades back then. I mean, right. The front row seats were this close to where the ring was. And, I'm a little kid. I go up to George Steele and I look up at him and I yell, George, and I got my autograph book and I say, would you sell my autograph book? And he looks at me and he kicks it right out of my freaking hand. And my autograph book goes flying. It's a good thing I had an extra pair of underwear in the car.
Oh
I mean,
God.
I was like, and from that moment on, Georgie Animal Steel became my favorite wrestler. And from that moment on, I became a fan of the bad guys But you never see anything like that today. Never.
No. And
Because it's not believable, because that's when it was real.
Right.
Yeah, we knew all the other bullshit, but we could believe it.
Right.
And that's why if you say to a man like Greg Valentine, when you came to the Northeast, how was it? And he said, it was great, except when I broke Chief Jay Strongbow's fucking leg. It made my career, but I had to fucking fight for my life every night. They wrecked my cars, crazy people. It's like, because he was family to us, and we believe. Were you there at the Hamburg Fieldhouse the night that happened?
Oh yeah.
You were there?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the Hamburg Fieldhouse, Allentown, Allentown Ag Hall, in the Philadelphia Arena, the Spectrum. I was at all of them. I was there from when I was, like I said, 6 years old. I don't think I ever
follow
missed a match.
the AMBO to the hospital?
No, I didn't.
It's a lot of people, because I became very close with the chief in the last 10 years of his life. And he told the story because Monsoon went with him, and it's because he was going to go back and get his shit for him. And he's like, what do we do now, Gino? He's like, go to the hospital. It's like, don't stop. Because that was volunteer fire department's building.
Yeah.
And that's why they had to wait so long, because they were out on a call. And it's like, son of a bitch. What do we, just let him lay there. That doctor, John Wood, he had the corduroy jacket. He wasn't smart. He didn't know what was going on. So it's just like, he's treating this like Chief's got a broken leg. Beautiful. They did a great job. But then it's like, where's the fucking ambo? I mean, come on. The show's going to go off the air. You're going to kill the whole angle. But
exactly.
Phil Zacco, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, Phil. I loved him. He was great.
Well, see, he didn't want to open the doors, because that was a few days. That was actually Valentine's Day in '79. And then the President's Day blizzard was going to be coming on the 19th. And it was already brutal. So Zacco said, I'm not opening that door for an AMBO. And Chief said, I ain't going to do it then. Yeah. So went to the old man, and he said, you do what he says. Whatever Zacco, look, I used to work for a bond company in Baltimore, and I used to see the bonds come through, and it was legitimate. Vince McMahon, Phil Zacco, Willie Gilzenberg, Monsoon, and Skolin, they were all officers of the company. The hierarchies we all know. So it was no bullshit. It was Capital Wrestling Corporation, and they all got a piece of the pie. So they wanted to make sure this worked. But somebody like Chief, or like Benny and I talk all the time, Bruno was like talent scout. He'd go, that's how we got the Valiant Brothers. Mm-hmm. He working with them in Indianapolis with Dick the Bruiser. And it's like, hey, you got to bring these guys east, man, and put Lou Albano with them. Hey, it's just perfect.
Yeah. Well, we have stories that we tell because, like, we did the tribute to Bruno. We told stories about how he got screwed by Vince Sr. and Buddy Rogers, and I was friends with Buddy Rogers as well. But I wanted to tell you real quick, there was a story, speaking of Chief Jay Strongbow, when he came to my house with Dominic, and they came in this old station wagon. I don't know if you remember, he had an old brown station wagon, and they came in the house, and they were always talking. We were always joking with Dominic because he was always so cheap, and they had to get new tires for the car. So Chief wanted to get Michelin. He always said he wanted to get the Michelin, and Dominic's like, no, it was on sale, And somebody came knocking at my door and said, you have a flat tire. And Joe looks at Dominic and he goes, see, I told you, you had to go for the cheap tires. We could have got the Michelin. So they both came out together, changing the tire. And the whole time, how Joe used to always talk real low. He was not a loud person, Chief. And he was like, mumbled a lot under his breath. I told you. He goes over. He was so mad. He took the tire off the car and threw it at Dominic. Yeah. And then Dominic took it back and threw it back at him. So we wound up playing catch with a tire. Okay. And the kids all went crazy in my neighborhood. And like stuff like that, my little friends in my neighborhood used to come to my house all the time. A lot of them got to meet a lot of the wrestlers. I met Ivan Putski at the Hamburg Fieldhouse in '75. He wanted to meet me. that's when I was younger and nice looking, you know, and all that stuff. So he wanted to meet me, and he met my mother and that kind of stuff. And then we started dating. We dated for 7 years, and
Wow.
yeah, he was a wonderful, wonderful man. I know he doesn't have the greatest reputation, you know, I know that, but to me, to my family, he was amazing. He was an amazing man, and
Well, here's something for you then.
what?
Our show that we just did last night, it
Right.
was Putski against Superstar in Madison Square Garden,
Okay, all
August
right.
29th to 77. And this was a different Ivan Putski. He was not Polish power or doing any of that silly shit. He came there and looking like he's going to try to win the belt. And that's why we told people before the show, you're going to get a different view from Ivan Putski from this show because
Okay.
he just stood there and he's ready for Superstar. And he put out a hell of a match. It was great. Perfect.
He actually loved it. Yeah, he loved having those matches with Superstar. They were some of his best matches. He loved them. I feel bad because even though he made a lot of money and like Vince used to let him take the plane and go home on weekends and all that other stuff, but the thing that I didn't like was the way he was used. He was used like a clown. He was used like somebody to laugh at. Nobody really liked him in the back because well, he could get a little obnoxious. He did have a little bit of an attitude. All right, again, never with me because I wouldn't tolerate it. But I felt bad for him because they did a lot of bad things to him in the back. Like they you know they call it ribbing or the ribs. You know they did a lot of things that weren't very nice to him, and I felt really bad. You know, but he I wish he would have stayed in wrestling longer. But as soon as Junior took over, he left. He said he couldn't take, you know, being with Junior. He knew that from the beginning. And a lot of the wrestlers, a lot of the older wrestlers left right around the time Junior took over from Senior. So that was a bad thing because they knew about Junior already.
Well, he
And
became a
When
Frankenstein. He had
yeah,
too much money on the line. It's like that guy's gone that you
yeah,
used to pal around with. Now I'm your fucking boss, and I
exactly.
mean BOSS.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, he was
when
crazy.
when when Superstar Billy Graham was champion, I think at that time Ivan Putski was at his hottest because I remember they had a series of championship matches at the Spectrum, and at that point in time, I really thought they were going to put the belt on Ivan Putski, and they never really did. They never did.
No, he only
And
got a tag team. I think that was the only belt he ever held. I
Tito,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, with
yes,
Tito, exactly. And I feel bad for that. I just do. I really do. And I think that they could have promoted him differently.
And he was not afraid to do what needed to be done.
Right.
I sat at ringside in Baltimore and watched him against Spiros Arion. It wasn't a blade job. He let Arion take and jab his head, and the blood just started to pour. And then he dropped to the floor and was counted out. And a riot started. A
Okay. Yep.
legitimate police riot began because you did that to Ivan Putski. Chief, Putski, Bobo Brazil, and of course
Yep.
Bruno was Baltimore people favorites. And it's like you hurt them and you've hurt the family. Look out.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, I forget what match was on one night. I was at the arena and I got hit because again we were all up front at the apron. You know, everybody was, and I'm sitting there. And
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, you could get up to the apron with
Yeah,
your
it was
autograph
fun.
book.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was great. And all of a sudden, I got hit in the head with a bottle. I was
Ooh.
about maybe 13, 14 years old. And I didn't realize that I had gotten hit. I just thought, you know, the crowd was big and wild. I just thought somebody pushed me. And all of a sudden, my face was wet. And I go like this, and there's blood everywhere. My mother freaked out. She was like, oh my God, you're going to die. You know, we got to go to an ambulance and go to a hospital. But for me, that was like a battle scar. Like, I loved it. I had a great
Badge
time.
of honor.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. But I miss those times. We used to also, I don't know if you were ever around when Bruno had his wrestling promotion. We used to go to the Abraham Lincoln Hotel in the Allentown, Hamburg area. I'm not 100% sure where. It was Bruno, Dominic, David Sammartino, uh, Johnny Valiant. I mean, I used to cut their hair. I used to go to these places with them in the hotels or out in the back at Hamburg Fieldhouse and all, because I'm a hairdresser. I used to cut their hair. You know, we used to have a ball. Everything was so nice. Now, today, even if you see them on the street, you've already had wrestlers say publicly, Brock Lesnar, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, if you see me in public anywhere or at an airport, do not stop me. I will not sign autographs. I will not take pictures. And I feel like saying, who the hell do you really think you are? I mean, really? Like,
Well, see, when you talked about that IWA thing, that pissed off the old man
yeah,
and Junior. So then they bring in Belomo and start
okay.
to call him the greatest wrestler to ever come out of Italy.
Oh my God.
Or let me say it the right way, Benny. Italy. So
Italy.
you're going to screw over Dominic and Bruno. You think we're going to eat that bullshit? Nothing against Sal Belomo. I got to work with him and know him over the years. Nice guy, but it's like, damn. I mean, this is just like too much. Stop it already.
Yeah,
It's like
it
showing pictures. He caught the old man in bed with somebody and denying it. It's like, nah, you were screwing that girl. You're guilty.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's like, no, you can't forget Bruno. But Vince Senior and Junior wanted to scrub our brains, and it's like, you're crazy. It ain't gonna happen.
Well, and I think also the main reason that Vince Jr. Got rid of the kayfabe and said that wrestling was sports entertainment because he didn't want to pay the commissioners. He
Right.
didn't want to
True.
pay, to have anybody watch. And you would think that he would care enough about his wrestlers that he would at least want a doctor there. You know what I mean? Regardless. But that's, and how much money are you really saving by not having a doctor there? They were making money hand over fist. So what was he losing? A few $100s a show? I mean, to have a doctor there or to pay the commission? Well, yeah, the commission wanted a portion of all the tickets sold, so that would be a lot of money. But I mean, I
Yes,
still would
they
have had
got
a doctor
10%
there.
of your gates.
Yep,
Absolutely.
yep. I would
So
still
that
want a
needed to
doctor there.
go, and it's bullshit. And then they come up with their half-ass enforced rules. It's like,
Yeah,
it was good for me to listen at the opening to hear the state athletic commissioners announced. And in Baltimore, did you ever hear the song by Ray Stevens, not the Crippler, but the country singer, The Blue Cyclone?
I
If you
think it sounds
go
familiar.
listen to it, it's all over the internet. And part of
Okay.
it is because this is a guy never been to wrestling, and he goes with his friend. It's like they lowered the lights and the crowd began to scream. And it's true. But first,
Yeah.
you would see the state athletic commissioners walking towards the ring, and then people are getting excited. Now we know what's next. And then when they turned out the house lights and turned on the ring lights, see, I do a lot of acting and movie stuff, producing. Lighting is beautiful. And when you used to have blood, oh my God, under those ring lights, it was beautiful. I know Benny and I talk all the time. A psychiatrist would throw a net over it, the whole bunch of us.
We're not
Say,
normal.
lock the doors. They're crazy people. And it's like,
Yeah, it's true.
it's a great catharsis, though. It sure is a great one.
It is, and again, it's so hard to explain to the people, especially the young people today, because we've had like people ask us about our podcast and like, why don't you do more on what's going on now? And because there's nothing like now, like you could see it's gotten so bad now. Not only could you see the mistakes that they make in the ring, but you can see them actually knowing that, okay, now it's time for me to bend over like this so that they can hit me with the chair, and I have to bend over and stay that way until, or like when, like I'm jumping off the top turnbuckle, all of them are down at the bottom with their arms up waiting for
Yeah,
me.
I'm calling for a fair catch.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. When did that ever happen?
Right.
Like, when was that ever done in the old days? Ever? I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't know. I was at the arena one time when Bruno fought Bulldog Brower. Okay, Bulldog Brower was one of my favorite wrestlers, and Bulldog Brower was that night. He had a lot of issues, a lot of personal issues, but that night when he fought Bruno, they both were hurt. Both of them were hurt big time at the end of the night. So we were out in the back of the arena. It was my mom and me, my dad, and a bunch of other people. We were all out there. And when Bruno and Brower came out, they came out together. And it was weird because, like, with the kayfabe and all that stuff, they came out together, but immediately at the door, they both turned and went their own way. Like, like they looked at each other like they were going to fight again. But Brower, for some reason that night to me, looked like there was something wrong with him. Like he didn't look like he knew where he was. And I don't know whether that was a real thing that was starting to happen to him or what that was, but he really and truly just, like, he kept putting his head down. He didn't know, like, where he was. And I felt bad for him. A couple people had to come and get him and take him out. And Bruno, of course, was Bruno. Bruno's always been Bruno. But Bruno and I go back a long way, too. Bruno has been one of the kindest people that I've ever met in my life. He was a big part of my family, big part of my life. My mom, like, literally loved him. It got to the point where every time he walked out of the back of the building or my mom was there, he would walk out and just bend down automatically because she was so short. And she would just go up and grab him by the neck and hug him and kiss him and all. Try to do that today. How are you going to do that today? There's no way.
I'll tell you about Brower. I gained a lot of respect for him listening to Blackjack Mulligan talk about the night he was stabbed. And Brower drove him to the hospital because they taped him up as quick. But with the knife being dipped in pig fat, even at the hospital, they said, you got to go get some serious treatment. We're not capable to do this.
Yeah.
Where they went, even where they were in Boston. So Brower took him to a hotel. Brower had a gun, and Mulligan said he fought people that were trying to come in the fire escape, the balconies, and he protected Mulligan, and then he drove him to the next hospital to get his leg repaired. And it's like, yeah, it was serious shit back then, Daddy. People believed it when it was real because we believed that it was real. Now, what are you going to believe today? It's not going to happen. It's like the circus.
No, it's a very expensive night out now.
That too.
Please. Are you kidding? I have loved wrestling since I was a little kid. There are so many wrestling matches that I never missed. Today, I can't tell you when the last time was that I went to a wrestling match. Rich, how long has it been since you've been to a wrestling match?
Tallahassee, Florida, probably 15 years ago. And the last time I ever went, because I had this person sitting behind me that would not shut up the entire time. And it was the most annoying experience, but it wasn't even enjoyable. And Tallahassee's the is the city, which is the capital of Florida. So it's a small town, and it was it's Tallahassee Civic Center, kind of a dumpy place, but that's the last time I went. And honestly, I think, like, okay, AEW was recently in Fairfax, Virginia. Fairfax, Virginia is like a 20-mile ride from where I live. I wouldn't go today. I wouldn't go anywhere today. I don't care what federation it is.
No.
Rich, did you get to know Scott Teal at all?
Who?
Scott Teal.
Name rings a bell.
Publishes Crowbar Press. Because he holds for the guys down south, and I'm talking all the legends. Every summer he has a reunion for them. He pays for everything. Scott Teal would be like George Napolitano in the Northeast.
Okay, he helped Joel write his book, Scott Teal. Joel Goodhart. He has the book. He helped him do the book.
Joel Goodhart. There you go.
Joel Goodhart. Yeah, do you know Joel Goodhart?
Know of him, yes.
I used to be his partner in the 80s. We were partnered. Joel, my ex-husband, Paul, and myself were partners in the 80s for about 5 years. And then, well, I mean, it was a long story, but things got bad, and then we parted ways. And my ex-husband and I went our own way, and then Joel went his own way, and then he started the TWA. I was just going to say, the last show I've been to was his one and done. That was like 2 years ago in May. That's the last one I was.
You went to Baltimore a lot then, right?
Back then, we went everywhere. We went to Baltimore. We went to the Carolinas. We were working with the NWA. We were doing all kinds of stuff back then.
I was never for any of that because I was WWF strictly, but I know Joel Goldhart ran a lot in Baltimore.
Yeah, he did.
Without a doubt.
He did Baltimore. He did, well, that's like I said, when he was on his own, he did Baltimore. He did, I think, some in Delaware, and he did New Pennsylvania and New Jersey, yeah. But he, now he's not doing it anymore. He's done with wrestling. He's done with everything. But I do know that Scott Teal helped him write his book. That's the only reason I'm saying that. But yeah, we're still friendly, but like it's been a long time. Like we were years and years and years ago. It was crazy. We actually introduced him to wrestling. Joel was just a fan, and my ex-husband and I introduced him to wrestling and brought him to a match and blah blah blah, and then we kind of got started, which leads me to my next question. How did you guys meet? How did you guys get together?
The two of us?
Yeah.
He offered to buy me dinner, and I said, with a hair like that, I couldn't turn him down, without a doubt.
Okay, so that's what it was about.
No,
right?
Nikita, we interview you on Dan and Benny in the Ring, correct? You were a guest.
I was a guest for you, Dan and Benny, and our other buddy. He kind of, Angelo DeCipio, kind of brought it full circle. And that's where you started with your
I started
big
with Angelo,
break.
yes.
You got with Angelo. So, okay, I was a guest, and I got to know Benny, Dan, a little bit, from the show, but mostly Benny. Then there was somebody else that will remain nameless because there's been some bad blood. So I didn't want to say nothing bad. I'll just say we began on a different channel. Things deteriorated, and then Benny and I just said, okay, we'll go our own way. And
So how
we
long have you guys
continued.
been together? How long have you been doing this together?
78 shows.
Yep,
78.
And as of right now, we are the number 100 wrestling podcast in America, which doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but when you think that there's probably 15,000 of them, number 100 isn't too bad.
No, that's great. I'm probably
Plus-
down where the 1,500 is.
Plus the audio in Japan, we were number 3 in Poland a couple
Yeah,
of
number
months.
3 in Poland, yes.
Number
Wow.
3 in Poland. Talking
Very
about
cool.
wrestling from the 70s. I'm amazed, Benny. I really am. I'm happy, but I'm
Yeah.
amazed.
That is wonderful. I love that. I think that's great of you guys. So that's it. So you've only been doing it for like a couple of years.
Close about a year and a half, year and
Okay.
8 months. Yeah.
But we did not miss, because we're every Wednesday night. And this past year, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve was on Wednesday. And I said, Benny, do we want to do the show? I'm available. And he's like, sure. I said, some people might not have anything else. So
Right.
we did it. And it was well received. People were happy.
Very cool.
And you
Very,
do it
very
live,
nice.
right?
Yes.
You do it live, right?
Always live. Yes.
Yeah. And
Now, let me ask-
Benny, you also have other podcasts in other genres, correct?
Yeah,
Don't you
on
have a
Monday nights they do a show called True Crime with the Bad Girl, the Play, and Dangerous Dave. The Bad Girl is Brittany Brown. She was an independent wrestler trained by Killer Kowalski and Moolah.
Okay.
And Dangerous Dave is Dave Plus. Dangerous Dave Starr was trained by Kowalski. They both wrestled in Walter's, I think it's IWF territory. Very good
Okay.
people. They love their true crime. We have a blast. It's a little bit different. We cover a case like we're going to cover Tupac on Monday, now there's a very hot trial. I don't know if you've been following the Lindsay Clancy trial, the woman that she murdered her 3 young children. It's a terrible
okay.
tragedy. Yeah, it was just given to the jury today, so we might pivot and cover that if they reach a verdict by tomorrow.
Wow.
But we have it, it's true crime with a twist, because we have this kayfabe segment where Dave is looking for a date, and he actually sends me pictures of women from dating sites, and then what I do is I run it through AI, make up a different name, make up fictitious hobbies, and then I'll usually write a song about that person, and we'll play it on the air, and then we'll do a yay or a nay. It's fun. We have fun.
Mhm.
And so I do that. I used to do a baseball podcast, which I miss dearly because I'm a huge. I mean, I saw my first game at Yankee Stadium in 1964.
Wow.
Yeah,
We have to choose. We're going to do something about that, Benny, you and I.
we need to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I even know his '69 Oriole team by heart.
Wow.
Now,
that's
Wow.
crazy.
The other nice part of the show that we do, it just kind of happened, and then it continues where we cover the top 10 television shows of that week and then the top 10 musics. That was the one that goes both Benny and I music people, and we take up about 15 minutes with that, but it's okay. People don't complain; they like it. It takes you back in time.
It's like it kind of puts you in that place at that point, because once you hear music or you talk about songs, oh, I remember that one. Yeah, I was working at that place then, and I was dating this girl, and it brings you back in time, and that's then we go into the card and we break down the card match by match.
That's nice. It's
You
like
know,
very
you didn't start out that way though.
Nope.
You came up with that format at a later point in time.
Yes, correct.
As far as what you're doing now, and that was one of my questions as to what made you decide to change the direction of the theme of doing a card every week.
Because having a guest is a pain in the ass.
It is.
You got to make sure they show up, that they have a good connection.
That's
that
key
they
right
can
there.
speak and that they are coherent. And then it's like, I give it the 3 second. If I don't get a response, then I just take over. Boom, boom, boom. So you don't know what you're going to get. Okay. So it just kind of worked out one week, Benny and I. It's like we didn't have a guest, and we said, let's try this. Let's cover this show from Madison Square Garden. And now we're like Kurt Gowdy and Tony Kubek every week. That's what people like. Even having Larry on, our numbers went back a little bit. It was because, Larry's been on 1,000 times talking about that. Yeah. I like Larry, known him for a lot of years, good guy. But people want to hear coverage of the matches. They don't want to hear anybody interview. They want to hear Benny and I talk about whatever show we're talking about.
Yeah, I think
and a lot of the people in the chat room were at those cards, which makes it even better.
Wow. So how in the world, Nikita, did you become a walking encyclopedia of dates? I mean, you've got these dates nailed down like nothing I've ever seen before.
Mind-boggling, isn't it?
Thank you.
I barely remember my birthday. Are you kidding me?
I look at my driver's license every morning just to make sure I know who the hell I am.
I was a terrible student, but I loved wrestling because I believe it was John Callahan. You were on the show, and then I hung up, and he's like, how the hell does he know that? I can't remember what the hell was going on last week. And it's like, it lives in my heart and in my brain. So that's why, boom, boom. Like today, 1977, Chief wrestled Superstar. I mean, I was just like wild. I thought he was going to win the belt that night. But it turned out to be a shit day because the television taping from August 16th hit our market that day. The Chief had to give the belts up because of White Wolf's injury. And it's like, son of a bitch. But he's going to win the belt tonight. I know it. And then it was like, and here was the fun part. I'm sitting in the middle concourse. Great match. He's dominant. He's got Superstar in a sleeper. I said, that's it. I'm going to jail. But I'm going to be in the ring when he gets the belt. I get to the lower concourse. They throw into the ropes. I get to the floor, collision, Chief's out of the ring. I'm standing there, he's counting it up. I'm like, what the hell happened? I can't believe it. But then Superstar limped away, and people are punching at him, throwing beer. And I'm like, holy shit. I'd never been that close before to a wrestler. Like, look at Superstar. And then when Chief came down, it's like, holy shit. Chief is a giant. I mean, my God. And then I was hooked. Then you would just start to go, no music. You just watch the dressing room area, and then the flash bulbs would go off, and you knew somebody was coming. It's like, man.
It's funny because I always said that about when Bruno was at the arena or wherever he was. Back then, of course, like you said, there was no music, no pyro, none of that stuff. And all of a sudden, okay, the arena would be quiet. And then all of a sudden you would hear, like, you know, the vibration, and you look over to where the dressing room is, and the audience starts getting a little bit more crazy as he walks down. So you got this group in the back, it's getting loud, then it gets louder, then it gets louder. Eventually the entire arena shook. That's the unbelievable. That is the kind of attention. And like you said, it's family. When Bruno came into that arena, holy God, it was like, he was home. He was home. The only thing he was missing was the dining room table and the chairs. You know what I mean? But he was home. And
We
the
did
people
have
went
some
absolutely nuts.
we did have some people that got two legs over the wall to the nut house because you couldn't convince them. They thought they just watched it on television. In Baltimore, we had channel 45 from 4 to 5 p.m. Then you
Right.
go to the Civic Center. They're saying, no, it just happened. I watched it on television. It's like they tape it in 3 weeks. No, I just saw it on television. It's like, okay, fine. Where's the
Yeah.
string to tie you back up in the jacket there? But yeah, okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
Well,
Holy
that's like,
shit.
remember the days when, go ahead, Rich. I'm sorry, honey.
Yeah, I want to mention something about the television tapings. So, obviously, I'm sure you know that prior to Allentown, they used to tape at the Philadelphia Arena the 3 weeks in one night. And what was interesting, I lived in an area of Philadelphia where I was able to very barely get Channel 9 on, the rabbit ears antenna. And Channel 9 was 1 week ahead of Philadelphia in showing the order of the tapings. And so I'm watching this thing build up between Bruno and Larry Zbyszko. And then, like Saturday night at midnight, with all this static in the background, I'm watching the taping of the turn before Philadelphia gets to see it a week later.
Right. That's crazy. But it's
And
like
they were damn close because when Bruno first met Larry at the arenas was March 1st, and it was just shown on the TV market like the week before. So they barely got that snuck in there. But I hear what you're saying, Rich, because trying to watch from Baltimore, the B station would have, or the B show from All Star Wrestling, it was rabbit ears, right? And it was like, well, looking for a snowstorm. But you were seeing it, you couldn't miss it. And it came on Tuesday mornings at 1:30 a.m. It's like, oh my God, I'm gonna be tired tomorrow. But you didn't miss it. Then thank God they moved the Saturdays at 11 a.m. But
we used to go down to Channel 48 in Philadelphia, and that's where some of the tapings were then. And even if you worked or went to school the next day, you still went. That was one of when we had the 3, 6, and 10, and then the UHF came on. Channel 48 was added in later, but they used to have tapings down there and individual house shows. And it's funny because back then, like they had like one match that was being promoted, like you guys were talking about, and it would be the same match in like 4 or 5 cities until it got to the actual place where the match was supposed to be seen. But people didn't know that all these other places already had this match, and people would be like, I saw that. No, you didn't. It didn't come here yet. No, but I did. But no, you didn't. But that's because it wasn't like it is today. Obviously, today between the internet and all the TV and the pay-per-views and blah blah blah, it's so ridiculous now. It just is. It's just a whole different world.
even when the sheets took effect in about 1981. They weren't too in depth. They weren't given that much because, like the gorilla position, you know what that is, and it's like you ain't getting back there. I don't care who you are. If he didn't know who you were, ain't happening.
Right.
You don't drop names, don't drop money. You ain't getting back there. Don't even try it. Because
Carmella,
boom.
I have to tell you, one of the other things that Nikita does when they're going through a card, and I just want you to know, I love when you do this. He starts quoting Vince Jr. as he's doing the play-by-play, because when he's talking about the Madison Square Garden matches, that's when they were on the MSG cable network, if I'm not mistaken. And you start quoting Vince, and I just crack up because when I think back to the play-by-play announcers back in the day, and when I first started watching wrestling, they were taping out of the Washington Arena, and the ring and the play-by-play guy was Ray Morgan.
Ray Morgan,
That's
yes.
yeah, and that's who I grew up on.
Yeah.
And then they had another guy who probably anyone I've ever asked has never heard of this guy, and it's really hard to find him on the internet, but he's there. And he was play-by-play guy for a short time, and his name was Eric Page. I don't know if that rings a bell to you.
Eric Page. Oh my God, I knew him. Yes. He was right. So he was the play-by-play guy after Ray Morgan. After Eric Page was a guy out of Pittsburgh that I really, really liked, and that was Bill Cardell.
Chili Billy.
Yeah, Chili Billy.
Right.
Exactly.
And then, like, I thought Bill Cardell was great. And then all of a sudden, one day, there's this Vince McMahon Jr. doing here's the new play-by-play guy. And I'm saying to myself, oh, you got to be kidding me. Like, they got rid of Bill Cardell, and I got to listen to this guy. And what's really great about Vince in those days is when he was so serious about everything. He went from the serious play-by-play guy, and when you watch some of those interviews and he's rolling the eyes at the bad guys, it's hysterical, as opposed to when he expanded the whole thing and then he became like a comedy act. But retrospectively, I think that Vince Jr. back in those days was probably one of the best play-by-play announcers out there.
Yeah, we both say that too.
We talk all the time about that, without a doubt. And yes, I will say I emulate him, without a doubt. Hold on one second. I have to blow some dust off of that. Well, that's my hero, old Vinnie Mac.
Oh my God.
Without a doubt.
Oh, wow.
Now, I took with me, when Nikolai went into the Hall of Fame, the program from that night in Baltimore. I have Vince's autograph in there.
Oh, cool.
And I said, you remember this, don't you, that night? He's like, oh, of course. And I said, look whose autograph I got in there. And it's over Gorilla Monsoon. He's like, he loved it. I said, I was always a big fan. You may be billionaire. You ain't going to give me anything. I know that. But what you did, if I was in a coma, I'd know my wife's voice, my mother, and you, and Adam West, without a doubt.
Adam West.
Can't forget Batman.
I love Adam West. Yeah. That's funny as hell. That is so funny. But yeah, he was very emotional. He was very, very loud and very emotional when he did the commentary. And then it's like over the years, just everything just changed with everybody. Like as the years progressed,
they became a cartoon.
Worse. Yeah, it just got worse and worse, and it's a shame. And it's funny because like I heard an interview recently of Will Ospreay from the AEW, and he was saying how, he's always saying that he's, he made himself. He's his own guy. He never wanted to be a WWE guy, because he didn't want to be made by somebody else. And he brought up the fact that these how the wrestlers, like I just said, how the wrestlers are hitting each other, but they're missing like a mile by a mile, and the jumps and the falls and all that. And he said himself, he said, I'd rather be old school. He said, I'd rather take the punch. I'd rather have somebody hit me than pretend they're going to hit me and make it look stupid. He said, I'd rather go home and have to go to the doctors than have to, do what they're doing today. It's just ridiculous. And I have to commend him for that. He's just a kid. He's a young boy. I'm not a young boy, but he's 32, but he's still a kid compared to my age. Everybody is.
That's when you're our age, that's a kid now.
It is. He's a baby, And I had to commend him for that, because he was looking at it ahead, where he was like talking about old school wrestling, which I admired when he said that. And, because he grew up in the old school stuff, not as much, of course, as we did, but he did. And I think he is, as much of an acrobatic wrestler as he is, I think he's got a lot of talent. I really do. I think he's a really good wrestler.
I got to laugh when people talk about old school and they talk about The Rock and Stone Cold and that crazy shit.
Yeah, classic old school from 1996.
Yeah. It was funny, but it was not wrestling. It was wrestling entertainment.
And that was not old school. Definitely not.
Old school is Bruno versus Waldo Von Erich. That's old school.
Exactly.
Oh, Waldo Von Erich, my God. That was the very, very first match that I went to as a kid, which was the main event at the Philadelphia Arena. was Bruno versus Waldo von Erich. And Johnny Valentine had just turned on his tag team partner, Bruno's cousin, Antonio
And everybody
Pugliese.
turned on
Crazy.
Antonio.
Yep.
Yeah, and Johnny Valentine's opponent that night was Smasher Sloan.
Oh wow,
From
that's
Never-
Butte,
amazing.
Montana,
Yeah.
right?
What's that?
Yes,
He was from,
yes,
he was built from Butte, Montana.
Butte, Montana.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
and what they also used to have in the old school was they had the main event, but then they had the semi-main event. So like the main event was Bruno versus Waldo von Erich. The semi-main event was Bulldog Brower against Antonio Pugliese.
Yep. Exactly.
And that's how they used to book all those shows.
Yeah, and the funny
And-
thing is, mentioning Pugliese, he was the first wrestler that ever came to my house. Him and Louis Jordan, and talk about singing. He is an incredible opera singer.
Yeah,
or
Tony
he
Parisi.
was anyway. Tony Parisi, Tony Pugliese, an incredible opera singer. He sang, and he had the most beautiful blue eyes, and he was so nice. And he had just gotten his butt kicked that night, and he came in literally wobbling, but he sang for us. And oh my God, those, you can't replace that time. You can't do anything that makes that time any greater. You just can't. Those are
Well, he
memories
got
I
the
will
rub of
never
being
forget.
Bruno's. Yeah, but he got the rub of being labeled as Bruno's cousin.
Right. Well, as a matter of fact, when I was younger, when we were very young, we were so close to Bruno, we just would say we were his cousins too, and he agreed with it. There was a few times Bruno and Dominic came to pick me up at school, and the kids went nuts. I mean, they're like, "Oh my God, your cousin was just here," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know, you know." But I mean, I loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I'm not going to ever be sorry for that. It was amazing. It was wonderful.
You
And
had
we
to
had a-
respect Dominic DeNucci for being the number 2 guy next to Bruno, and he didn't care. He was fine. He was happy. He's making a good payday. Everything is good. They were friends. They travel. It's like beautiful. I'm okay. Don't worry
But you know,
about me.
Bruno defended him on that. Bruno hated it. Dominic was okay with it, but Bruno always said that he told Vince and everything he wanted Dominic to have a belt. He hated the fact that Dominic was always in Bruno's shadow. But like you said, Bruno didn't do it on purpose, and Dominic didn't care. They were so close. And I remember when Dominic's wife passed away. Her name was Janine. She had passed away before Bruno, and then Bruno passed away 6 months
within
later.
6 months of each other, I think.
Yeah, and I talked to Dominic on the phone shortly after Bruno passed away, and I, told him I was sorry, and we were talking and talking, and so, and he was very sad. And I said to him, I said, "You sound so sad." I said, "You're breaking my heart." He goes, "I lost my wife and my best friend." He
Right.
said, 6 months apart. He said, "And those were the most important people in the world to me." And I mean, on a happier time, I would have said to him, "What about me?" We always did stuff like that,
Right.
but of course I didn't. Then I said, "I get it. I understand." I said, "I'm so sorry," whatever.
Hmm.
But that was when he really started to go downhill. It was after his wife and Bruno passed.
But
And then
now
shortly-
Dominic was Bruno in Australia. Dominic was a megastar. He
Yes,
won
he was.
their version of the World Championship, I think, 4
Yes,
or
he
5
was.
times.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
So he did have
was-
his moment in the sun, just
yeah,
not
he
here.
was great.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
was
just
good in
not here.
Japan too. Japan, he was good there too. He did Australia and he did Canada. Canada, he had a big name too.
And he
But
he
just
did
here-
very well in San Francisco. He did very well in the NWF. I think he was their world
Mhm.
champion. So he did
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but
But
they just wouldn't push him
Dominic
here.
was also tag team champions with Bruno of a WWF International.
Yeah,
Tag
that
Team
very
title.
short-lived title. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I mean he was
And-
like WWF tag team champs, I think 4 times, including that one.
But still, he never got the belt.
No,
he never.
you're
he was
right.
One of the ones that never did. That's like we go back to Bobo Brazil. Again, he was a friend of the family. Him and Ernie Ladd, we used to hang out with them at the arena too. And I felt so bad for him. Bobo Brazil was one of the kindest men you would ever want to meet in your whole life. And they would not give him the championship title for such a long time. And they just didn't want to. And they told him flat out, "You're not championship material." I mean, I thought he was. I thought he was awesome. But he took it. He took it like a champ too. I wouldn't have taken it like that. I'd have burned a building down. But he took it like a champ, and I got to commend him for that as well. He was a great man. He was kind, he was sweet, and he was misused terribly by the WWF.
I think the highest plateau he had, if I'm not mistaken, he was the U.S. champion in the WWF.
He won it in Detroit like a gazillion times from the Sheik. That was a rivalry that lasted for years.
Right.
It did.
They never officially had that belt, but they would recognize his holding of it. But like he wrestled Superstar in Baltimore on July 16th of 77, but it was announced United States champion. You didn't need it. We love Bobo. It was fine. And it was very smart by Phil Zacco to bring him in for a one because he was not in the area. He had not wrestled since 76 in the WWF. And he would not come back until 84 and when he teamed with Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas. So it did some singles matches too, but it's like Bobo was, and Ernie Ladd, I just saw a picture of him yesterday with the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know. I think Otis Taylor was standing next to him, and it's like, there's the big cat. Holy shit, what a giant.
Yeah. That was like Andre the Giant. I dated him too for like 9 months, but you want to talk about a big guy. Holy crap. Scared the hell out of me when I first met him. And how I met him, funny story. I speak Italian, and I speak a little tiny bit of Spanish, and I speak some French. So I was in school back then learning, and when I graduated high school, I went on to learn by myself after that. I loved the French language. And one day, Andre was at the arena, not the arena, at Hamburg. And back then, we were friends with the cops and everything. So, of course, you handed them a letter. They would deliver it. Why wouldn't they? So I wrote this letter to Andre in French. And I put my phone number in there and all that. And I asked the guy, can you just go give this to Andre? He said, yeah. And back then, it wasn't like, throw it away. They read them. A lot of times, they read them, So about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I get this phone call. And it's Andre. And this real deep voice on the phone. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe you called me, And we were talking about my letter. And he corrected like what I said wrong or whatever. And that's how we got a friendship.
Give you a French lesson.
Yeah, I used to write to him. He had a PO box. I used to be able to write to that he would get the mail, from there. And then he'd call me, and we went, blah blah blah. And then we got friendlier and friendlier, and there you go. But we traveled. My mom and I traveled with him. We went with him to Georgia. We went to the Carolinas with him, and he was the nicest man. Now, when he started drinking real bad, of course, that things changed. But he was the nicest man ever, and I could not believe, with all the people who loved Andre so much, I could not believe the incredible insults that he got that were thrown at him all over the place, all by people who liked him. And I was getting into fights with fans. Like, I'm like, don't you dare say that to him. I'll punch you, And he's like,
he drank for the pain.
Yes, he
and
did.
He
what
was
else
severely
he drank for? He drank for the loneliness too. He was very lonely, and he did drink for the pain. And unfortunately, the more he drank, the more he had to drink because he was so big and he got so used to it. He could go, and I've seen this, and that's why we have ultimately broke up. But he could go through a 24-pack of bottles of beer and barely get a buzz, And I was at the Marriott in Philadelphia when one of the times that he actually fell asleep, he passed out actually in the lobby, and they had to put caution tape around him, and nobody was allowed to go near him. They couldn't pick him up, They just couldn't, and I felt was so sad. The only time Andre felt any peace or any comfort was when he was in his farm in the Carolinas.
Yeah.
That's the only time he felt any peace. And we talked about that a lot. And it broke my heart. It always broke my heart to talk to him about, how freakish he felt and how bad he felt that people just made fun of him constantly. And he said to me one time, he said, I'm stuck with this. He goes, what do I do? There's no way to change any of this. There's no way, and I cried. I mean, what was I going to say to him?
Yeah.
Like
when he had to have the surgery, the anesthesiologist said, okay, we don't want to kill him, but we don't want him to wake up. What's your level? What will get you drunk? He's like, well, he told him what he thought would work. So it's like, okay, we better adjust it just a little more. But how do you judge somebody like that? I
I
mean,
don't
he
know.
was a giant without a
Yeah, he
doubt.
was. How do you even operate on somebody like that, And he
Oh, they
was,
could do that.
unfortunately, yeah. But the thing is, too, he had that acromegaly, and he refused the surgery. The surgery was an option for him. Vince, I think it was senior, had told him that, he would pay for it, blah, 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 whatever. And Andre refused it. He said, this is how God made me, and this is how I'm going to stay. And maybe if he had had that surgery earlier, because when Andre was very young, you could see the pictures. He was tall, he was slender, he was just a regular guy, just tall. But then as
Yeah.
time went on, all the back pain, and like I have a bad back, I have a lot of back pain, and let me tell you something, that is no joke. That is no joke. I can't even begin to imagine how
Mm-mm.
he wrestled in the ring like that. And that is no joke. Sometimes, like today it rained where I live, and it rained hard, and my back, like even now, sitting here right now, my back is killing me. I can't imagine how he did it. I really can't. Yeah, that would make you go to drugs or alcohol, make you go to something, because they couldn't do anything or give him anything else. And that's the sad part about it. And of course, the more he drank, the heavier he got, and the worse it got. And there you go. And I don't know. It's so sad. But I got to tell you something, guys. I'm really liking this podcast tonight. I like talking to you guys. I would love to do this again. Would you guys be willing to come back and do it again?
Yeah, why not?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I would love that, because I love, this is like for Rich and myself, this is like being home. Like this is what we know.
I
I'm not
told
good
you.
at dates
I
like you
told
are,
you.
Nikita. Yeah, you were right. You were right. This is all Rich, by
I
the way.
told you.
Yeah. And
Uh,
and he watches a lot of podcasts. He listens to a lot of podcasts, and he gives me all the information because I'm like always busy. But
He's the
um,
bird dog.
what's that?
He's the bird dog.
Yeah, he is. He just says, here, Carmel. I'm like, okay. But I love this. I absolutely love this, and I am honored to have both of you here. I would
Thank you.
absolutely love to have you here again,
Sure.
and maybe next time we could talk about, like, bring a match, or let's talk about a match, an old match that we all saw, and talk about it, and I would love to be able to do that. I would love to talk about it and give opinions on it, do a play-by-play. I mean, I would love that. I think it would be awesome. And I think that the people that see this podcast tonight are going to really like it. They're going to get a lot out of it. A lot of our listeners are also old school. We don't really have young people listening to us. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know,
Without
because
a doubt.
when you're young and you talk about old school, nobody cares. It's the old school people who like to hear about the old school. But do you think maybe you
can
could
I,
fit us in again in your big schedule one day?
Sure. Sure. We
Go
can do
ahead.
it. We'd be glad to.
Thank
Just
you.
say
thank you.
this for When It Was Real, Wednesday nights at 7:30 on the East, 4:30 on the West Coast. But keep us alive and subscribe. We need to get subscribers.
Right, us
And
too.
this book,
Absolutely.
When It Was Real by Scott Teal and myself. Scott Teal always says, Nikita wrote it. I just fixed it. He said, Nikita, you write like a cop. I said, I know, Scott. We never had a crossword between us, though. It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Scott's just
I
a
never
wonderful
met the guy, never met him, but I heard a lot of good things about
Very
him.
nice guy. Very
Yeah.
nice guy.
and,
Yeah.
and honest.
Can I,
He
Yeah.
is honest. He's a guy I would give my wallet to hold. Hey,
Good.
there's a quick story with Bruno.
Go ahead.
One of the pictures in the book, it's me, Bruno, George Steele, Nikolai. We took a picture.
Mhm.
Bruno was going to be referee for the match. So he goes to my wife, Victoria. He says, would you hold my wallet and my wedding ring and my watch? And she's like, well, sure. I said, you manage, Nikolai. I want to hold Bruno's stuff. Get out of here. I'm like, holy shit. I said, now, if he trusts you, that says a lot.
It
Believe me.
does. It does. Yeah. And I got to tell you, Bruno, for me, honestly, in my opinion, he is probably one of the most, if not the most, incredibly transparent, upfront, kind, amazing, no bullshit guy. Okay.
No, humble and
Yeah.
humble.
Oh, and humble. Forget it. You're right. Humble. Absolutely. If Bruno tells you something, my ex-husband, you can say you can mortgage your house on it. That's how honest and truthful he was. And yeah, very, very humble. He could have been obnoxious as hell with all that he had going on, but he never was. He was always grateful from his little, short beginnings and all his time that he had, and loved
Yes.
his mother dearly, and I mean, but he always, up until the day he died, he was always honest, upfront, truthful, kind, sweet, and of course, Benny, like you said, humble.
How do you come back from a broken neck? He did it
Yeah,
in
he
two
did it,
months.
and he did it right, faster. Rich, you were going to
Damn.
say something before. Do you remember what it was? I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know. I'd like to ask both of you your opinions on the progression of champions. Take Ivan Koloff and Stan the Man Stasiak out of the equation for a second, but you went from Bruno to Pedro, back to Bruno, then you went to Superstar Graham, and you went to Bob Backlund. And one of the things that cracks me up, because I know Larry said this in both interviews, the ones he did with you and the ones he did with Carmel and I, he refers to Bob Backlund as Howdy Doody, which I think that's pretty funny, but it's also at that time pretty much the truth. But number one, what bothered me was the way Bruno lost to Superstar, was Superstar putting his feet on the turnbuckles. And the other thing that bothered me was the way the Backlund won the belt when Superstar had his foot on the bottom rope before the 3 count, and it's like it never really got acknowledged. But I'm curious to your opinions of the progression. You think that Pedro was the right guy? I mean, they could have gone from Bruno to Dominic, and you would have had one Italian to the other. I'm just curious to your opinions on that progression of champions back then.
I'll tell you what. Let's write that down because that's a long discussion. It's a good one. And Benny and I have covered it. It's a long discussion all the way through. And there's a lot of points and counterpoints to this. But I want to do that, Rich. I really do.
Well, I'll tell you
Chris,
what.
you have another 2 hours? No, I'm just kidding.
No, why don't
Benny,
we
what do
do
you
it
think?
for the next time? Why don't we?
Yeah,
do it?
Why don't we do it for next
Yeah,
time?
it would take some time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. I have time.
And
That's all I have is
It's a
time.
very good discussion, too.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into it. A lot of
Yeah.
personalities and like who did what and why. So, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
could be
Well,
a good
yeah.
show.
Well, I
I'm
was
gonna
just going to
check-
say, I was just going to say, do you have another 2 hours? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm going to look at my book when we're done tonight, and I'll get back to you guys,
Sure.
and we'll set up a time, definitely, because
Absolutely.
I really like this. I like it a lot. I mean, I love the podcast, but I like this interaction because it, like I said, it makes me feel like I'm home.
Good.
I love it. I really do. Guys, I can't
Good.
thank you enough for being here. It's truly been an honor.
Pleasure.
It was
Thank
such an honor to meet both of you
Yeah,
and to get to speak to you, especially after like being a major fan of your podcast over the last 78 episodes. And keep doing the Vince improvisations, Nikita, please. It cracks me up.
Yeah, maybe
like
you can do it for us
have-
on the next show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd
I
be
will
funny
do
as hell.
that.
I'd love that. I love that. And I'm going to ask you guys too. We're going to put it up on Facebook. If you would share,
Yeah.
our podcast on your walls, that would be great. And then we'll set up another time and have you guys back. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
Honestly, it has been an
Thank
honor.
you.
Thank you. Okay, you guys take
You're
care and
welcome.
have a great night. Rich,
You too.
love you. Talk to you later. Bye
Me
bye.
too. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Bye.
Thank you.